Morning guys, welcome back to the workshop. Now, I was busy with some hand carving there and I had intended on making a hand carving video, but then picked up one of my chisels and I've noticed that my Ashley Oils chisels, my good chisels, are in pretty bad repair. So they've got some rust on them, the brass ferrules are all tarnished, the wooden handles could do with some TLC, and my bevels are all no longer square. They're looking pretty poor indeed and are no longer sharp. So in this video, I'm going to prepare all my chisels, get them back to really good working order, get them razor sharp again, polish up all the brass parts on them and treat all the handles. And I'll show you guys how I prepare my chisels and keep them in good working order, because they certainly are in a bit of need of some TLC. So without further ado, let's get these back to good working order. Okay, so this is my set of my Ashley Oils chisels. I've done a review on these before, but this is my good set of chisels. These are cabinet makers chisels. They're really good quality, made in England, and they're made from really good steel. But if I get the camera to focus, you can see rust forming on them. Again, I haven't used them in a while and I've been sitting over this long winter, and the bevels are in pretty bad shape, and you can see the brass ferrules aren't looking so good, and we'll treat the wooden handles as well just to keep them looking nice. So without further ado, let's clean them up first, get everything polished back up, and then we can look at regrinding our primary bevels, making sure everything is in good condition, and we'll get these back to razor sharp and fighting fit. Okay, my first task is just to clean up all these blades and get all the rust marks off. I'm just going to use a few Scotch-Brite pads and a few sanding blocks. These are the foam ones. They're for the car industry, for working on paint on cars. They're very fine. They don't remove a lot of material, but they're good just for rubbing on your tools and getting the rust off them. I'm also going to use some of this tool cleaner. This is really good stuff, this Trend tool cleaner, for cleaning all the sap and stuff off your blades, your saw blades, any of your machines, your router bits, chisels, all that kind of stuff. It's good stuff indeed. So we're going to screw that on. And we're just going to scrub these down. I'm not going to be able to get to this coloration out of them now, but as long as we can get the rust off. And we'll polish up them ferrules so you can see there's a before and after in the brass ferrule. So nice and quick and simple. We'll oil these up again just to protect those ferrules and stop the metals from rusting, and then we'll treat the handles. So this one needs a bit more work on the blade and the things, just to get that rust off. Okay, that's the worst of the rust off. Okay, there we go, all cleaned up and looking like new again. So all the brass is shining. Kind of reminds me of my grandmother. And all the old women in the town, when I used to go into school as a young chap, they would be out polishing their brass door knockers and door handles and letter boxes with the Brasso. I don't know if you guys remember those days, but yeah, he would walk downtown on the way to school and all the women would be out polishing their brass door knockers and stuff, and they would be absolutely gleaming. So that's a bit of brass my grandmother would be proud of. Now, for the most important part of the video, chisel sharpening 101. Let's do that. Right guys, chisel sharpening. So any chisels you buy, they will have to be prepared first. Now I've already prepared these, but for the purposes of this video, I'll just flatten the back or give you guys a quick demonstration. So expensive chisels won't require a hell of a lot of prep work, but they will require some. Cheaper chisels will require a lot of prep work to make sure that they're flat. So you want to make sure that the back of your chisel is perfectly flat. So you're going to need some sort of lapping plate, float glass, a diamond plate, a really flat honing stone to do this, and just prepare the back of that chisel. Now, we're not going to use a ruler trick here like we would with a plain blade where we tilt it up and just polish edge to edge behind the blade. We do not want a back bevel on a chisel. We want a very flat reference surface for our cutting edge, so that we can run that reference surface on the piece of timber that we're trying to plane, or trying to chisel, I should say. for cutting really, really tight, sharp joints, really good cutting into knife walls, that kind of stuff. So you want your back of your chisel to be able to reference the piece that you're cutting into. So unlike a plain blade where it's okay to have a back bevel, it's not okay to put a back bevel on a chisel. So back of your chisels, perfectly flat, guys. And I've already prepared these, so I don't have to do too much work on them. So you can see, the camera will focus on that. You go, the back of that chisel is nice and flat. You don't have to flatten all the way out to here. You just want a good portion, a good reference face for your cutting edge. So from about here to here would be good enough. You don't have to go all the way back here. But like I said, these are a good quality chisel, so they're pretty flat all the way. And you can see how they're ground. A little bit of a hollow grind here, but the most of that chisel is perfectly flat. So prepare the back of your chisels, and we'll get on now to cutting a primary bevel. Okay, I'm going to be setting my primary bevel using my Tormek. Now I have multiple sharpening videos on my channel. I've shown using honing guides, everything from float glass with micro finishing film to polishing and honing and sharpening plain blades and chisels using diamond plates and everything in between. So there's a full list of videos depending on what you want to have, whatever you want to look at. You can see me sharpening with all sorts of different things. But I have a Tormek that does a lot of the work for me, so that's what I'm going to be using. Now, these particular chisels, these Ashley oil chisels, they come with a 20 to 22 degree primary bevel out of the box. So that's what I'm going to re-establish that. And then you put a secondary bevel on them between 25 to 30 degrees. So between 25 and 30 degrees is the sweet spot for your cutting edge when it comes to your chisels and your plain blades. So like I said, I'm just going to set this now. Just going to check my angle. I'm going to set this to 22 degrees and cut a primary bevel back into all of these because they're off square, they're rounded over, and they need to have that recut. So 22 degrees, and then I will hand sharpen to between 25 and 30 degrees a secondary bevel. So let's crack on and do that. Okay, with the Tormek, I have this angle setting jig, so I set this to 22 degrees. This guy is to do with the diameter of the stone. Now, I have a diamond stone and it never changes diameter, so it's 250 mil, so I can leave it set to that always. But this is the guy you have to worry about, so that's set to 22 degrees. That helps me set my angle on the wheel. Okay, the jig I'm going to be using is the SE77. This is the square-edged jig, so you put your tool in it, either your plain blades or your chisels. It slides up against the end, and that keeps the chisel or the plain blade perfectly square to the stone. So there's a little kind of a fence, you would call it, or a little wall there to slide your tool against, and that will keep it perfectly square. So once I know it's flat against that, I know I'm good to go. So just keep it pressed against that, tighten it down, and I'm good to go. And this one has lots of micro adjusters as well if you need to square it up, but I know my one is actually set right, so now all I need to do is just set the angle. Right, setting the angle on the Tormek is very easy. I'll just put this on the wheel, put that there, and I can see I have a slight gap up this side, so I'm just going to hit my adjuster until this part here sits perfectly flat against the back of my blade, and I know I'm at 22 degrees now. This mightn't be relevant information for a lot of you guys. Whether you use a Tormek or a whetstone, it will be, but if you're doing it by hand with a honing guide, you'll have to set the angle correctly yourselves with your honing guides. But that's how you do it on a Tormek now. So we're good to go, that's adjusted. I'll lock everything down, and I can start grinding that primary bevel. Now another little thing I just like to check is that everything is nice and square, so I'm not going to be grinding a bevel at an angle. So I'm just going to put a straight edge against the side of my diamond stone. I'm just going to check that, and that's sitting, the edge of that is sitting flush against the side of my blade all the way up. Now I know that these Tormeks, they come perfectly square to their edges, so that this side is perfectly square to this. So I can use that as a reference check to make sure that I'm in my jig properly and that I'm not putting an angle into my chisel. So that's always something handy just to check, because you can grind this and you not realise that you're grinding it at an angle when everything looks square, but it's always good to check and recheck before you start doing it. Okay, there's nothing left to do but start grinding, and I like to stand on this side of the Tormek and look at the cutting edge. You can stand on that side, it's a personal preference. There's no right or wrong way of doing it, and it's up to you. But like I said, I like to stand here and just keep an eye on the edge. So I'm going to get on now and grind all these chisels, and I'll show you guys the finished results of grinding all the primary bevels. Okay guys, I'm getting there. I've been here a while, I'm not going to lie. But the largest chisel is always the slowest because you've got that extra material to remove. But this is the beauty of having something like this, or a probe edge, or some sort of whetstone grinder, that you don't have to do this with a honing guide and do it by hand. I have done that for many years, reset primary bevels by hand, and it can be quite a bit of work. You really do need a really abrasive stone if you're doing it by hand, just to remove that material quickly. But we're just there. You'll start to see a little burr form edge to edge, and once it's all the way edge to edge, you know you're good. Okay guys, there we go. So with a primary bevel reground, hopefully you can see that, and you can just see that little burr there just breaks off just by rubbing it, and it's all the way edge to edge. So you'll actually feel it with your finger. You might be able to hear me just catching it there. But that's it. Now I've got to do this to all the other chisels, and then we can do our secondary bevel. Okay guys, all the primary bevels are now reground to 22 degrees. Now that took an hour and a half or more. It's a bit laborious, but once you do it, you don't have to do it again for months. Depending on how frequently you actually use your chisels, you can just retouch up the secondary bevel. So I know that my backs are flat. I know that my edge, or my cutting edge, is square to my side. So you've removed two variables from your tool, makes the tool more accurate. And you know then if you're making a mistake, it's not the tool, it's you. So everything is nice and square and flat and true. So like I said, it helps you be more accurate if you put that little bit more time into them. Now, I'm going to grind a secondary bevel, which is going to be between 25 and 30 degrees, and I'm going to do that by hand. You could do this using a honing guide, or you could do it on the Tormek. I like to do it by hand because I like to touch up my chisels and sharpening by hand whilst I'm working. It's always handy to be able to touch them up. It takes a couple of seconds. So very quickly, I'll get you in for a close-up. I'm going to put a secondary bevel on this. We'll get it razor sharp. I'll do that to all the chisels, and yeah, we're almost there. Okay, I'm going to use the 1000 grit diamond stone here. Again, doing this by hand. So I've just like to do, you rest on your primary bevel, so you'll feel that you know exactly where you are, and just tilt it up slightly. And I'm going to use the angle finder in my eyeballs because I'm used to looking at this. So I'm just going to tilt it up just a touch, and that will give me between 25 and 30 degrees, which will be more than enough. Few figure of eights. Again, this is all just a bit of practice. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. You won't even have to think about it. Again, it'll all be done by feel. There we go. Nice edge on that. Now, I'll just give you a close-up of that edge, guys. I have a burr all the way across the back. I can feel it there. You can probably hear it. Just catching it there. So I'm just going to take that off, one stroke back. And then I'm just going to finish this on my leather strap. So again, primary bevel, tilt it slightly up onto my secondary bevel. I'm just going to do all strokes backwards. Just like that. A few strokes, doesn't need many, just to polish the edge. And when you come back to it, when you're woodworking, when you're in the middle of your project, often just a few strokes on the strop is all that's required to get you back to a really sharp edge. And the sharper the edge you can keep on it, the more accurate you can be. Okay, paper cut test. Not very a valid test, but you can see how sharp it is. That is absolutely scalpel sharp. Which is pretty good. And again, the leather strap really does help put that really fine edge on it, that really polished edge. And when it comes back to it, then you want to keep the edge on it. A few strokes on the strap is often all that's required to hone that secondary bevel. So that is that one done. I'm going to crack on now and do the rest of these. So again, onto the primary bevel, tilt it up slightly, figure of 8. It's just a few strokes. And when I feel that edge to edge, it's already there, edge to edge. It's literally take it off, take off the honing fluid, a few strokes on the strop. We'll do this all in real time. Take our page then again, and as you can see, absolutely scalpel sharp. So that is how I do my chisels. And again, like I said, it's just a hand do it. Once you get practice with your hand, it's the way to go, because you're not setting up jigs, you're not setting up the tormek. You can quickly go from your workpiece, quick sharpen, and get back to work again. So it's well worth it to learn how to sharpen by hand and by feel. So, and again, it's all just a bit of practice. Anyways, last but not least, I'm just going to treat the wooden handles. I'm going to use one of my favorite products, and that's Alfie Shine. So it smells absolutely fantastic, as I probably said in a million videos. But yeah, it's just a wax for timber, and I'm just going to put that on all these wooden handles, just to protect them, keep them nice looking. Rub some onto the brass as well, it'll help slow down that tarnishing. And we're almost home and dry, and our tools are back to ship shape and working order. Hey guys, there we go. My Ashley Oils chisels are now ship shape again, ready for the next project and for multiple projects to come. So it's only a case to touch up that secondary bevel now. So remember, flat back, square cutting edge, primary bevel, add a secondary bevel, and you are ready to go. So hopefully you've enjoyed that, guys. As always, hopefully you've got something out of it. I know regular viewers of my channel will have seen me do that multiple times, but it's no harm to do a sharpening video every now and again, because people always ask in the comments. So there you go, guys. That's all my good chisels now prepared. That's how I'm doing it at the minute. So like I said, hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you got something out of it. Comments and questions below. Give the video a thumbs up, and if you're new here, think about subscribing. And I shall see you guys in the next one.